All right, guys, this is the third part and the final lesson that we're doing this week on how to make a role-playing game. Let's do a quick review of what we learned yesterday. Role-playing game. We're trying to make a game that simulates real life in a non-linear way, right? So instead of a game where you go from level 1 to level 2, you play a character who can go to any area at any time you want and interact with any NPC. We started with the NPC system. NPCs being a non-player character. First thing we did is we added a big bubble around the NPC. When the player character, third-person character, overlaps that bubble, we set the NPC overlapped into a variable that lives in the character. That way, the character always knows which NPC he's talking to. Right? I walk over here, now I'm in Michael's bubble. I walk out of Michael's bubble. NPC name is correct. Yes, the NPCs can be named. It's a public variable, which means we opened up the eyeball icon. So if we click on any of those NPCs, we can name them all. And we did name them all, and now they show up in a widget. What we're going to do today is make it so that when we initiate dialogue, we can actually see what they're saying. And what they're saying will be tied to a variable. So each NPC can have a different thing to talk about. To do that, we're going to do something we've never done before and make something called a structure or a struct. Okay? A structure is a type of variable that contains other variables inside of it. But here's the reason we want to do that. When I initiate dialogue with somebody, there's multiple things going on. I want the text of what he's saying on screen, but he's probably also voiced over, right? There's a voiceover audio to that. And you might have that recorded, right? We need to play that audio. So we're going to include that in our struct. He also might be animated. See, there's an animation that's custom to that specific piece of dialogue in that line. So we're going to make a structure that contains text, audio, and animation. Okay. Let's get started. Hey, over there, you can help them when we're done with the lesson. We're going to do lesson right now. All right, everybody. First step, click Add New, bottom left green button, and choose the category called Blueprints, not Blueprint class, but the category called Blueprints, and choose Structure. Add New, Blueprints, Structure. And name it S_dialogue. And double-click to open it up. S_dialogue. So now you're looking at the structure. This is where we can add all of the variables for this. The first variable we're going to add is the text that the player sees for this NPC when he's talking. We're going to name this first variable dialogue line. And then we need to change the type of variable to what? What type do we want for dialogue line? Text is correct, so choose text. Dialog line, setting it to text. There's a little arrow next to dialog line, next to your variable on the left. Click that arrow. It's going to expand the other options. What you want to do is check mark multi-line text. It's going to give you a bigger space. Since this is for like lots of dialogue, paragraphs of dialogue, this will make it easier to type in. You press the little arrow next to dialog line, and then it opens up and you check mark multi-line text. So that's for the line. But remember, this is a struct. Okay, there's going to be a lot of information that goes in this. Not just the words he's saying, but the actual voiced audio. So now you're going to click New Variable. And for new variable, you're going to name it voiced. Name it dialogue voiceover. Second variable, you're naming dialogue voiceover. I'm doing a lesson, Grant. Can't have you in here. Sorry, man. Dialogue voiceover. Okay, the variable type for dialogue voiceover is going to be called sound base. So look up sound base. Base is spelled B-A-S-E. Sound base. So that's dialogue voiceover. Sound base. It's a variable type. Yeah, it's a type of variable. And the third variable we want is an animation variable. Click New Variable. Name it Animation. And for the variable type, set it to anim. Type in anim space sequence. Anim sequence. A-N-I-M space S-E-Q, and it'll come up. And that's it for the structure. Once you have this, you can hit save in the top left and go over to your NPC's blueprint. Open up your NPC's blueprint. Open up your NPC's blueprint. Now let's take a look at the code that we made. So we're going to review this. Okay, we got a big old bubble called a sphere collision on our character that's objective is to sense whenever the player character is in it. If third person character is in it, hey, then our third person character knows that this is the NPC I'm talking to. Because there might be hundreds of NPCs, but it's only one you can talk to at a time. On our event graph, we start with our onBegin overlap. Okay, third person character overlaps the sphere. We set his variable called currently highlighted NPC. It's the current NPC he's talking to self. That means this guy, he must just overlap because we're on the overlap event. And we print the name so that we can see that. We move the camera into place, right? Set view target blend blends our camera into his. We create the widget. That's the menu that goes up on screen. And now we're going to continue off of this code. Before we do that, though, we need to create a variable for the dialogue structure we just made. So next step, in the lower left, click plus variable. And name this variable greeting. Greeting. This variable will be the first thing that the NPC says to you when you enter into dialogue with him. So the first thing he says to you is going to be this greeting. Now, what type of variable is greeting going to be? Nope, not text. Everybody says text. Think about it for a second. Huh? No, not integer. Structure. Nevea got it. Okay, the structure we just made specifically. So for variable type, look up s_dialogue. So the structure we just made is going to be our variable, s_dialogue. Click the eyeball icon next to the variable on the left so that it is a public variable, so we can change it from each NPC to each other NPC. And then hit compile in the top left. So you made a new variable, you named it greeting, you set the variable type to s_dialogue, and you opened up the eyeball icon next to the variable so that it's public, so we can edit it and change what the greeting is from each NPC to the next. Okay, now let's continue our code. Continuing off of our code from the onBegin overlap event, okay, so the most recent node we did was add the player screen. You're going to drag off of that and look up play sound. Play sound. And you're going to choose play sound at location. Play sound at location. There are other types of play sound. There's play sound 2D, which means it's just going to play at the standard volume within the player's ear. Okay, but play sound at location is going to give that sound an actual source, right? What's the source of our sound? The NPC, right? It's presumably his voice. So for location, just drag off the little bubble for location and look up get actor location. Choose get actor location. Get actor location is already set to self. Self is the thing we're coding on. We're coding it on the NPC. So it's this NPC itself is the location of the sound. Okay, now that you have get actor location plugged in, where it says sound, you click on select asset, and you can see all the different sounds that we can play for that. However, we don't really want to hard code a sound into this. Instead, we want the sound to come from our variable, greeting. So drag greeting onto the graph, and we're going to do get greeting. Drag greeting onto the graph and do get. Now, greeting is a structure, right? There's 3 variables actually inside of greeting. We need to get one of those. We want to get the sound-based variable. How do we get it? Well, to do that, we need to break the struct. So you drag off of greeting, and you don't even need to look it up. You just choose break. Break S dialog. Drag off greeting, break S dialog. And now you can see all the different parts of it. You can see dialogue line, dialogue voiceover, and animation. All right, what are we going to plug into what? Say it louder. Yep, dialogue voiceover is going to go right into sound, the 2 blue bubbles. So now drag a wire from dialogue voiceover into sound. Your code should look something like mine. Hit compile. And now go to the front of Unreal. Click on your NPCs. You now have another setting in Details panel called Greeting, where you can set the line he's talking about and the actual audio that he's going to use. I want you to set the dialogue greeting for 3 NPCs right now. Just write whatever line you want. And for the voiceover, just pick any sound. Most of the sounds we have are just explosions and stuff from starter content. But later on, we'll be able to import an actual voiced actor or your own voice into this. So, okay, I got my NPC here, Steve Buscemi. I say, hey, Mr. Torres, I heard you totally killed it at that magnet rally. This is it, Steve Buscemi talking. He's a fan of mine. So, dialogue voiceover. You can choose animation if you want. We're not going to do anything with the animation variable for now, but it's there if you want to use it. And you're set to use on all of your NPCs, all 3. All right, once you've done that, hit play and go up to an NPC. You should hear the dialogue for that specific NPC get played. You're behind your phone. Because this needs target. Okay, let's move on. All right, so now you have sounds that play when you go up to the people, but we need to actually see that their text comes up in our widget. So what we're going to do is open up your dialog widget, W_dialog, double click on that to open it up. Now, yesterday, we actually made it so that the text in the corner is bound to the NPC name. Now what we need to do is make it so the text in the bottom middle is actually bound to the words he's saying in the greeting. So everybody open up your dialog widget. Click on the text for what their actual conversation is, and click bind, create binding. We're binding the text to a variable. What we're going to do is right click and look up get player character. Drag off get player character, cast to third person character. Drag a wire into the front of cast. So we connect our white wires. Drag a wire from get text on the left, the front of cast. And drag the wire on the end of third person character into the front of return node. All right, so what we're looking for is the dialog line on the greeting structure, which is a variable on NPC. Which NPC? The currently highlighted NPC, right? So that's why we're getting the third person character. So drag off of as third person character and get currently highlighted NPC. Drag off of currently highlighted NPC and get what? What? No, we're not getting NPC name. We're already showing the NPC's name. We're dragging off currently highlighted NPC and getting what? Somebody must know. Close dialog, but it's in a variable called, it's on the NPC. Greeting. Greeting. Drag off currently highlighted NPC and get its greeting variable. Okay. That greeting variable is of the type S_dialog. And since it's a structure, we need to break it or split it. So drag off of greeting and choose break. All right, plug dialog line off of the broken dialog straight into return value. Your code should look like mine. Okay. If you've done that, hit play and see if the lines you wrote for each NPC shows up now in the widget. It should. And it does.